hit the button and we'll go ahead and call the work session to order. Daisha, would you like to share your concerns or why we're here?
Yes, I had seen that we were being asked to approve the library appointee, and so did have questions on kind of how the process works, what are good options for it, and the purpose of it. So I thought it would be helpful to start off kind of what's the purpose of this position and what's the school board's role in it.
So we have two appointees to the library board. One of the interesting things I've found out in recent months is that University Farm is actually not in the West Lafayette catchment area.
Yeah.
So that eliminates 5/6 of us from being able to participate in the library board, and George obviously can't fill two positions. The way it's been done historically is that there have been appointees who have been members of the community rather than ourselves, which makes sense based on the catchment area. To my knowledge, TSC, even though University Farm is in the, I'm sorry, not TSC, in the Tippecanoe Library catchment area, I don't know of any agreement between TSC and the Tippecanoe County Library that is the same. I would assume that there is some sort, but I am not aware of it. Nobody's ever asked me to participate. Martha, who is a longtime fan of the schools, is our current, and I'm sorry, I can't pronounce her last name. I believe it's Adshall. I'm bad at names. Altschafel. Okay, I'm going to write that phonetically. She is has been on for 8 years. Hi. And has been serving in that capacity as a volunteer. And I've met with Mrs. Altschafel, and I have met with Mara Honeywell, who's the head librarian, and both of them have indicated that they're happy with the arrangement, and the term is limited to 3 appointments of 4 years. So this will be her last opportunity to volunteer. So it's my opinion that we should gratefully allow her to continue. And I invited her to attend the meeting next week so that everyone has an opportunity to hear from her, hear why the library matters to her and what she works on there. And going forward, the community council meeting will be the place where information will transfer from her to you, I believe. Isn't that your assignment for this year? Yeah. And then you can carry that information back the same way that we get information about the foundation or any other assignment from you. I understand that you have some questions about the process and how she was chosen. It happened before my time, so I don't know. And then the other appointee, that was done when I wasn't president, I believe, or it just appeared. Anyway, I don't know how she was selected, but I would be willing to reconsider our process, but I think it would be gracious of us as a body to allow the people who are currently in those positions to continue as long as they are willing and able and it's going smoothly for everyone. It's an important role in it. It's not like this board, it's not supervisory or necessarily policy setting-y. It's more of a fundraising-y sort of board from what I understand. So that's all I know about it.
So the couple of questions I have before we open it, I mean, any of these can add comments, but just to share some questions is, number one, if I understand correctly, you just said we actually appoint 2 people. Our school board will vote on 2 people?
Martha is this time, and then Anastasia will be in 2 years.
Okay, so 2 people that, if I understand correctly, the school board has been asked to put 2 people on the library board. It could be 2 school board members
But we don't live in the right place.
Well, if there were two, I'm just saying, I'm not talking about individuals, I'm just talking about the process right now. It could be two school board members. They have two positions for that on the library board. And every 2 years, we're approving someone for a four-year term. Is that correct?
Correct.
So then help me understand, and I'm not meaning we're asking George right now, but why were you saying George can't serve on it?
I didn't mean George couldn't.
Okay.
What I said was that the legislative position is a huge position.
Right.
There's a lot of trips to Indianapolis, a lot of reading and so on. And as long as we have two people who are currently serving in those positions, and he's in a position that, I mean, I've done that job, it's a lot to keep up with. I don't see any reason to change what's working. These two individuals have volunteered their time and talent, and it feels ungrateful to me to tell them no. However, when they're, finished, then if we have a board member who lives in the right place and would like to serve in that capacity, you might recall I was thinking about UA for one of those positions because I knew that this was coming up at the same time that Glass was dissolving, but wrong neighborhood. So when I found that out, okay, we'll let that roll for now and move on with life. So I thought by inviting her, that would settle some of our discomfort with appointing someone we don't know, because I remembered you saying that last time.
So I would love to open up the discussion in regard to this position that's available for us to vote on right now. I agree with you. I don't think we need to step in and remove someone midterm or do anything like that. We have people that we've, either voted in or didn't vote in, what past practices were done. But currently there's a position open, and just because someone's done it for 2 terms doesn't mean we need to just rubber stamp her and let her in. And so I would love to open up and get other board members' input. My view is I would like it to first go to a board member that's eligible if they're interested, and that it's the board member's decision, not anybody else's decision if they want to serve. And then my view is if, especially because we have limited board members currently that's able to do it, let's say George is like, I'm not interested, then I believe we do turn to the community, but we open it up and let the community know that we have this position and see who would like to fill this as a volunteer role. I think it would be helpful to have someone like a teacher or a parent or someone who has a little bit more connection with our schools than just someone who has had some connections with past administration and donated some money to our schools so I would like to see it opened up and others who can have a better representation of our schools where they're at currently.
So the other issue with it being a board member that I'll raise, not that I think you're going anywhere, but in the event that George were to decide not to run and we've appointed him to a 4-year term on the library board, that creates kind of a situation. So it's possible that it's historically not been a board member for reasons beyond the workload of the legislative position. But
Potentially, I mean, other school districts, for example, Lafayette, they appoint board members. And so this would be something like, the Park and Rec, David does it, and then if he doesn't run again, then there's a new board member appointed. So I don't think that needs to be a limiting factor, but I think right now, in my view, it's a discussion as a board, do we feel like we want to open it up and allow others to be involved or put in applications to serve and represent the schools, or do we just say what's done in the past, we just want to say we want to approve it now?
So have our current library board appointees caused a problem or a controversy or done anything to necessitate a change?
From my personal perspective, I've never actually met either of them. I've never heard from them. I've never gotten any input from them, which to me is another question I'd love to discuss tonight, is first the process of how we pick someone. And then the second one is what that will look like. And like I had shared, one option that I talked about that has been talked about is community council. There's various ways. That's never happened in the past, that's been the connection. I have had community members actually reach out and say they would like to see some changes. We've had 8 years of her serving. They would like to see someone that has more connection with the schools.
But that's not what I asked. I asked, is there a problem. Has
No, but I don't think the
done
problem-
anything to deserve being removed?
So I think after someone serves 8 years, that's a good term, and there doesn't need to be a problem to remove them. So my view is, I don't know why this is being twisted as being removed. If we were discussing, is her name Anastasia? If we were discussing Anastasia, that to me would be a discussion of we're removing someone in the middle of a term. What we're talking about now is we have an open position that we need to vote on, and I'm coming and saying, instead of just doing what's been done in the past, which means there's never been a discussion by the board, at least in public, there's always just been voting on whatever was recommended by whoever, I'm saying I'd like there to be a discussion, and then I would also like there to be an opportunity that other community members are involved. Has nothing to do with the individual I'm talking about, it's about the process.
But do you see how opening up this kind of discussion can make it sound like it's about the person rather than the process?
If you want to make it that way, it definitely could be twisted that way, but I also think that part of this is saying 2 terms have been served, thank you very much. We would like to look at the process and consider it, but I'd love to hear what other board members have to say.
Okay. David?
So I understand what everybody's saying. But also there's a 3-term limit. Is
Yes.
that correct? I
Correct.
think that when, to me, I think the best approach is we have a maximum limit already, 3 terms. How that was decided, I don't know. I mean, it was decided at some point, and that's what it currently is. Maybe at some point we want to change that. I don't think that's a discussion right now, but to me, if we have somebody in a role and they're willing to continue serving in that role, and the board, the leadership of that board is willing to continue having them, I think that we allow that. To me, the best practice would be to allow that to happen until the term limit is up, unless there's some specific reason why we feel like we should really reconsider who is appointed to that board. But then when that term is up, I do think that we should have some process where we open it up for opportunities to the broader community, make clear well in advance when that's going to happen, for us to review, maybe even a small committee review potential candidates, and do it that way when that final term is coming to a close. I don't see a reason to do it right now when we have somebody who's in that role, and both sides seem to be happy. I do think that we also should have some type of report of, at least annually, of what's going on, and we all report for our committees, and so I think that would be worthwhile. It could be a written report, or they could come and share verbally. It could be similar to what different administrators do when they share about their programs or their schools, not 30 minutes long, 5 to 8 minutes long. But I do think if we have somebody appointed to board, we should have some type of reporting back to us, because they are our representative there. But I think right now, as long as we have somebody who has been in the position, they're not at their term limit, to me, it makes most sense to keep them in that position. And then when the term limit is up, or when we or they all agree that there are better opportunities, that's when we reconsider who we're appointing.
Lawrence or Yue, would you like to weigh in?
I agree with David regarding the report. And if this is a position that we need to appoint somebody for, then we need to have evidence regarding whether we should continue the appointment. And also, given that we need to appoint a person for this position, I feel there needs some connections, but we didn't have any connections with the person when we appoint the person there, and we didn't know what's going on, and there's no report back, and then why do we appoint people for those board?
I have no idea. It's just always been, I think it's a law, but I'm not good enough at law to look it up. Maybe George can, but there goes the Google. I don't know why we do, but it has just been put on our plate to do this, and I don't know that there's a reporting requirement. I think it'd be lovely to hear what's going on at the library.
Yeah.
It is in fact Indiana law. You want to turn on your microphone and?
Let me read through.
Oh, read it. Yeah, reading it's probably a good idea. But it's just always been this way. I agree that community council would be a good time to hear what's going on and have that transmitted, and that's twice a year. I know that got messed up during COVID and has not quite recovered, or maybe it's recovered, but you missed a meeting. I'm not sure what all happened. But I agree. When it comes time to choose a new person, I agree that going through a fair process makes sense, and having applications or whatever, I'm absolutely fine with that. But like David said, I question whether we should change people mid-cruise.
It's not the midterm, right?
Well,
I mean,
they're allowed
it's
to
the
serve
end of-
12 years, and if they're willing to serve 3 terms of, 4 years each.
So it become like automatic. I feel we should make a rule that every time when their term ends, we should have a new open call to recruit people, because we have very engaging community, and a lot of people want to get involved to support the school, support the library, and it'd be nice to have more people involved. And so
I think that's a decision that we might want to make in cooperation with the library. There's a level of disruption to having to train new people and, so on. So I don't know that that's necessarily our, a decision we want to make alone. But I'm open to that. I just don't think it's very polite to say to people who have been serving and are willing to continue serving that we're going to replace them. That rubs me the wrong way.
you can continue to apply just with the other applicants. So then we just make it as a routine. It's just whoever has their term ends, there's always a possibility that they won't be appointed again, because we want to have more people involved. We want to have fresh eyes, and so probably library wants to do that too. So I exactly what kind of task do they need to complete on the board when you talk about training? And
They're coming next week to share that information. Martha and Mara are both coming to share that information with us.
okay, then those people who serve on the board probably should come every year to give a report about what they have done in the past year. And if they want to do it again, they need to list up, present a plan, what they plan to do in the future. That way, when we vote on that position, we are better informed. Otherwise, I don't even know what this role is for. Why do we appoint that person for the library, and how is that connected with ours? So it's kind of, yeah.
Good question.
So we kind of feel it's just a blind vote.
I understand. That's why I invited them. Lawrence, do you have anything you'd like to say?
I think my understanding of that, this is our obligations to appoint trustees in their libraries board. In our case, we appoint 2 people, and they are not responsible to us. We just appoint the person, and I don't think they have obligation to report back to us.
I don't think so.
Yeah, so they are kind of independent. Something like president select a judge, and then judge just do his business. So, so I tend to agree with what David said. Probably, if somebody are willing to do that at this point in time, and we don't know anybody really want to serve in other people want to serve. Probably, in my opinion, just to keep the status quo. That's probably just my opinion. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks.
I think through this discussion, it's important to remember that the past practices didn't involve the school board, didn't involve the community. So just saying, we just want to technically rubber stamp what everybody, whoever put this person in place, because there's a 3-term limit, we're just rubber stamping it. I don't agree with that. And I also appreciate UA's recommendation that I think at whatever, this year I think is when it should start, and then every 4 years is we open it up to allow anyone that wants to serve. And if someone has already served and wants to do it again, I would love them to submit an application and to be considered. But I don't think that I want to start or continue this tradition of when someone gets appointed, we now kind of say, unless you do something that we're willing to say is huge, we're just going to approve you for 12 years. And so I would like this to be a more of a collaborative, this is a school, we're being asked to appoint him. A lot of us don't know the history of why this is in place, but the facts are we're voting on 2 people to represent the school district, the school board. And so I would like the school board to be involved in that, and I would like the community to be allowed to be involved in that. And opening up, we now have a position open, and opening it up and allowing our current, she still can serve 1 more term. She's welcome to run again and, or not run again, but be considered. And then if anybody else wants to, then they can too. And so I would like us to start that now and not say, well, in 4 years, we'll include the community and have some voices.
I would caution you against making assumptions about how decisions were made prior to your tenure on the board. It's very easy to assume, but it was a different time, and the people who were involved are no longer present, and making assumptions about their intentions or their behavior is unfair, especially when they're not here to defend themselves.
So I mean, unless Martha wants to come share, we know for a fact she didn't submit an application and it wasn't opened up to the community. And that's all I've shared that I'd like to see changed is opening up to that.
No,
So-
you used words like rubber stamping.
Well, that's what I view as someone, this is an example of where the director said, this is who we want, sent us the document, vote on this. And with no discussion done, that's to me what I view a rubber stamp. And tonight is an example of we're not rubber stamping, we're talking about it. We're now talking about having them come talk to the board. This hasn't been done in many years to come. So that's what I'm bringing up. And that's what I would like to discuss tonight is what is our current practice going to be?
I think our current practice ought to remain what it is for the 2 individuals who are currently appointed. And as they roll off, then we can adjust as necessary. But I also think that being discussed in public like this is going to discourage people from choosing to participate. It doesn't seem like something I would enjoy personally. George?
So I've done some looking. The library board does do a little bit more than just fundraising. They are sworn state officials. They do take the oath of office. Under the law that I'm reading here, and it's probably not all of them, but under the law I'm reading here, libraries submit an annual report to the Indiana State Library. Library board members are under no obligation to report back to us under this. Library board members do not get paid. And there are some specific responsibilities for libraries and library boards according to the document I'm looking at. And the appointments to the library board are under Indiana Code, let me pull that up, 36-12-2-9. So we do need to take some consideration into who we're appointing to the library board for sure, because it is an important position. But I am of the opinion that while we do need to create a process, we do need to make sure that it's fair and balanced. All of this could have been an email. And we didn't have to sit here, whether you think I'm doing it or somebody else is doing it or I'm bringing it up. We didn't have to sit here potentially maligning people's names on camera and in public. All of this could have been an email. We could have agreed on a process. We could have presented it at the next meeting and voted on it and moved on.
So to clarify, this is the way actually boards are supposed to work, is they have public discussions, they don't deliberate in email. And so that's why I had asked that this conversation happens, because as a board, we decide, are we going to open this up, or are we just going to straight approve the one that has been submitted? Because this is a new process is why I wanted to have a discussion. And I was happy to have a discussion in August, but I didn't feel, I had requested to have the work session before that because I don't agree with having a discussion and then immediately being required to vote. But my view is there's just two decisions that need to be made here. And as I said, this has nothing to do with individuals. This is about a process. And it's sad to me when people try to make it about an individual, because that has nothing to do
You're
with
the one
that.
who brought up her donation.
So what I would like to do, what my view is, we have two decisions to make as a board, no voting or anything, is are we going to postpone voting on this appointment and allow it to be opened up and accept other applications? And then the second point is the reporting process. I understand they're not required to report. It seems like hearing from several people that were interested, and there's various ways that this can happen. My view is they don't need to come present to the whole board, this position's similar to Parks and Rec, foundation positions. We don't need someone to come actually present to the whole board. They can just, at community council, or if they want to do somewhere else, report to a board member and the board member can give it. But that's also a discussion that I think we all should have. On those 2 points is what I feel like we're discussing.
So given that, I agree with putting in a new process and doing some vetting of potential candidates, but because this is a oath sworn position, I think that any candidates that we do bring in going forward do have to do a public interview, much like the 2 temporary school board candidates did.
Go ahead.
Actually, sorry, can I just point of information, I guess. I don't think that they do, given Parks and Rec is also an oath sworn position, and we didn't have to formally interview. I know that
Well, perhaps that should change too.
maybe, but I don't think that it has to be a formal interview process, although we could if they're representing us. I think that we all have gone through enough of a process ourselves, but.
Lawrence?
Yeah, I think what Desha mentioned is, that makes sense to me. Probably board collectively, we have kind of procedures. So maybe you can check our legal counsels and see what's other school district, what's the best practice, how other school corporations, when they appoint these library trustees, how they do that. Probably that's kind of reference we can use, maybe. What do you think? Sean, what do you think? Maybe check with our legal counsel and see.
I would be happy to do that. I did check. I checked a couple of different districts. So I was talking with Mrs. Mumford earlier. Southmont does it similar to the way that this has been done here in the past. Lafayette School Corporation, the school board typically appoints a school board member. But if you would like for me to check with legal counsel and see if there's advisement on it, I'm happy to do that.
Probably I will see what, not only legal advice, we already have code there is pretty clear. What I'm saying is they may have more experience, they have more with other school corporations. We want to see what's the best practice, how they handle these kind of things.
I can do that. To make sure I answer the questions, can we put together something in email, like email specifically what you'd like me to ask, and anybody else, if we reply to all, if we can do that, I'll get it all together and I can submit that just to make sure that I represent every board member that has ideas or a specific question that they'd like Mrs. Billingsley to entertain.
Yeah, I will send you email
Okay.
and then you can.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, appreciate it.
But it seems to me, no matter what legal counsel says, we need to decide, are we moving forward with the agenda as is to just vote on what's being recommended, or are we moving forward with accepting applications? And if I understand correctly, we need to find out from legal counsel in considering those applications, does it need to be a public interview, and how does that process work? But to me, what we needed to decide before that is, are we even going down that road, or in 4 years, whenever whoever's on the school board at that point will decide how they want to handle it. So that's where I feel like it seems like we need to decide how to handle Monday's meeting just through discussion, and then in the end, I guess, I mean, we don't vote, so in the end, it's just what Dr. Greiner and Amy decide to put on, and then we can vote on that. But
Would anyone like to weigh in on that? I mean, in listening to what everyone said, it sounded like the majority agreed that as long as the library board is happy and the person serving on the library board is happy, and we have no reason to change things midstream, that we should leave well enough alone and allow the volunteer to continue to volunteer. If that's a mischaracterization, somebody stop me, but it sounds like you're the only one, Daisha, who is objecting to allowing the current members to continue.
I would support a new process for the next set of people, but for now, I have heard nothing about the library board or anyone on it, or any of the people who've been appointed to it that would give me cause for concern. So stay steady on the boat for now, and then the next go around, we should have a new process in place.
Anyone else? Yue?
I agree with George regarding the new process. I think we should streamline the process and explicitly say every 4 years, we will take new applications. If a person, the existing ones is welcome to apply for it. And the limit of the term is 3. So we just make all that very specific as a rule, and we will follow in the future. And as for the current one, since it's a little bit last minute, but still, I think this person should come and to report what has been done and what she plans to do, and before we vote for that position, and as a formality, I'll say, because otherwise, I really feel like it's a very poorly informed vote.
Okay, anyone else?
in regard to inviting her to the meeting, to me, it seems very respectful to community members not to be asked to show up at a meeting that they're being voted on. Like, we don't need, the proper process is, if we're trying to learn about that candidate and if we think they're a good position, then they should come to a board meeting and then we vote the next month. Or if a decision has already been being made, they're being voted on, then we do the vote and the next month they come. But having this conflict of they are sharing so that we can vote on them, but we actually aren't, I think is not respectful of the individual and not how typically I have seen it done in the past.
This has literally never been a problem before. Is there anything else we need to discuss? Any topic?
Yes, I would, if we're done with this topic, then the agenda items, we have on it that we're voting on the wireless communication device policy. I just, in preparing for Monday's vote, has anyone, Dr. Greiner or anyone else, heard any concerns about our district policy, which we're responsible for since it got put out?
I haven't heard a word. Have you?
I have not heard concerns about the district policy.
David?
Are we considering it a first vote or a second, or first reading or second reading because of all of the pretty substantial changes from the last time we saw it? I just want to be clear on it because it doesn't specify it on here.
Let me
It
find,
lists it as new business, so I'm assuming we're considering it a first reading, but
that would be correct, I
Okay.
believe. Let me see. I don't have it pulled up yet, so give me just.
Did the board make substantial change? I didn't think anybody made changes to the actual policy.
from what we saw, the original policy where the phones had to be in lockers.
Okay, that's procedures. So the policy, actually, there's no changes on the policy.
Okay.
We talk about this policy last meeting, is that right? So that will be the first reading. So this kind of second reading.
Yes,
This is
that was
second
my
reading?
interpretation.
Okay, I just got it pulled up. It is a lot of red, but I think it's mostly stuff that's been redefined.
Yes, we didn't change nothing's been changed based on what you as a board discussed last time.
Are we all comfortable with it being second reading?
I have some suggestions and questions. Should I ask now or should I
Sure.
do it email?
Why not?
Okay.
We're all here.
So the first paragraph and the last sentence said it must be stored away, powered off. And so I will switch powered off with the stored away. So powered off first, then store away. Just the sequence.
Where are you? The very
The
first
first paragraph,
paragraph.
last sentence.
If they bring it to school, it must be all of those things, stored away, powered off, and inaccessible.
Yeah, I'll put a powered off first, then stored away. You turn it off, store it away. And just a kind of, when I read it, I feel it's a little bit,
I think if it's an and, it's not a series of things, it's all of those things. So I don't know that it makes any difference, but yeah.
well, just a feel more natural, whatever. That's how I felt when I read
Okay.
it. Another question I have is, it says on school property, and so will bus be considered as a school property? Can students use the phone on the bus?
That's a good question. Is the bus?
Technically, they're in the bus. So if they're, it is a reasonable question of if they're going to a school event, can they use it on the bus? And there would be a difference between field trips and sporting events and things like that. But it's
That's a
also,
great question, and I had to think about it, actually, and I didn't interrupt you, it's just, I just had an aha. It's bell to bell also, but Dr. Yin, you had me thinking, yeah, that is school property, but because it's bell to bell, I would think they could use it on the bus.
Yeah, because kids do use that a lot when they ask parents to pick them up, right? After,
Yeah.
especially for the sports and trip.
Yeah, I think the key's bell to bell.
Okay. Another
Wait,
question,
before we leave that part, can we, actually, that has been brought up by others, because right now all it says is for a student instructional day. So like, does that mean it's an instructional day? So if they're still on school property after school, on the bus? And I understand that we've talked about it means bell to bell, but I'm wondering if we can make this clear in here so that, there's no confusion, that people aren't saying, can we do the bus? Does this mean after school? Does this mean anything? That it could just be a little bit more tighter on what we are controlling.
I think if the board decided to make some suggestions, we could very quickly run it by Jesse, Mrs. Billingsley, and then communicate to the board in Friday notes so that the board feels prepared if you want to do some tightening.
Yeah, that's a good idea because you could make it clear that these devices are not allowed without exception or without a special exception or permission during the school day, but they are allowed on the bus and during extracurriculars and during overnight field trips, as long as whoever's leading the field trip or leading the activity allows it. Because what you don't want to have is people saying, well, it's 3:00, I can use my cell phone, but they're in the middle of like SAT prep or something.
Are we veering into the lane of administrative guidelines
Perhaps, but
a little? I'm not sure. It's a wiggly line.
I'm sorry. One idea is just right now, kind of together, we try to decide what we think would be a good way to handle it so that we can send it back to legal counsel and be ready if we want to vote on it. One idea is just to add the clarification statement of including the period from the first instructional bell until the final dismissal bell, if that's what the law is saying. And I don't know if that means, kids technically before the first bell rings at school are allowed to be on their phones. And then my understanding is the second that bell rings, now they're not allowed to touch them until the final one is. If that's true, it feels like adding that verbiage clarifies that without needing to add a whole bunch of other details, but I don't know what others think.
Okay. I think given that we've disbanded the policy committee, since we've gone through everything, that there does need to be some level of process to synthesize feedback from board members as we go through these processes. So I do think that language that Daisha just used works for that. I'm fine if we switch the order of the two words that UA had recommended. I don't think that, I didn't have any other issues with the way that it's currently written. So if we make those two changes, run it by Jesse, then I think I would be okay with just moving it forward.
Okay. What was the specific language change? Can you tell me where you are and give it to me slowly so I can type it?
For the one that I said.
Yes, I got the powered off, stored away.
So it's paragraph 3,
Okay.
and it would just be a comma and then add, including the period from the first instructional bell until the final dismissal bell.
Okay. Add including from the first instructional bell to the final dismissal bell. Correct? And you want to add that exactly where? At the very end?
Yeah, just a continuation of that sentence, just a comma, and then it adds that detail.
Okay. Okay, those are in the file. If you could send them to Jesse, that would be super. Thank you. Anything else?
I also have a question about the smartwatch. I wonder what's counted. In many runners use a Garmin, so to
I
track
don't think
their.
Garmin's are, it's the ability to text, I think is the
So
concern.
Garmin is not a smartwatch.
No, some are.
I don't know that the intent is to require all school personnel to be experts on all devices. I think the intent is to prevent kids from
Use it
communicating
to
outside
play
of
game. Oh, so basically the smartwatch here refers to the kind that kids use to text message
Correct.
and
Like-
play games.
Right, this kind, not the kind that just counts your steps.
Yeah, but
don't think
I
that's
wonder
the
whether we
concern.
should clarify that, because listen, when I read it, because many of the watches nowadays are smartwatches, so.
To me, it explains it at the end of paragraph 2. It says a smartwatch, which is something that's connected to a cellular telephone, a cell tower, or the internet.
But Garmin is connected with
So
the
then
cell
that
phone.
would fall under
And
what's
I
required.
think part of the problem that that UA is getting at is some of those smartwatches are receive only.
But what I'm saying, I mean, I think it's a
so
good
it is
question
connected-
for
it is
legal
connected.
counsel, and to me, this is just what the law is saying. It's not for us to say Garmin's are allowed, but smart,
Right, and-
these aren't, that's not our call. We just have to follow what this says.
And that's where the confusion lies and probably where the state could have used some expertise because like my wife's Garmin can receive text messages. It can't send them, but it can receive them. Is that a problem?
I think it would be, because you don't want somebody like texting a kid that they're gonna pick them up after school. Anyway, okay,
May I ask more questions?
sure, of course.
So, and I see the exceptions, and it doesn't include in the case when kids need to contact their parents during the school day, and so when they need to do that, should they go to the front desk to ask to borrow the phone?
I think that's guidelines. I think that's an administrative guidelines issue, because you wouldn't just want a bunch of kindergartners trotting down to the main office to talk to the secretary, but that might be fine in the high school. So I think when you're talking about specific procedures like that, you're steering into the territory of administrative
Yeah, just
guidelines.
to clarify, because people may ask.
Well, to clarify, this is saying there's no exceptions unless the few that's listed here, and that's not one of them listed. So that, and like Mr. Rogers sent an email to the parents at the senior high school and says it does need to go through the office because state law doesn't allow things like that. So To me, because it's not listed as an exception, then, and I think so far, at least at the high school, the administration has done a good job of letting parents know, and will have to continue to remind us because it's a change, but kids are not allowed to do that per state law.
Sounds like we need to bring back payphones and put them in the lobby.
That's hilarious. Do you remember calling collect and when it said, say your name at the tone, saying, pick me up right now at the movie theater? Yes, so that was your name? I do. Because God forbid we spend a dime on a phone call. God forbid. Okay. Anything else that we want to talk about with regard to the cell phone policy? It's going to be 1985 up in here. Okay. If that's all there is, go ahead, Daisha.
Okay, so the other item on the agenda that I didn't know if there was information to share or a discussion needed is about the repairs that we're being asked to approve. Is there anything, I mean, so, still speaking, so then you'll just, I guess, on Monday, give us the information and we vote right then? We'll get information at Monday and then vote then.
And or even possibly Friday notes. So, and if not, we'll pull it off the agenda and, yeah.
This is still in flux.
Good.
Okay, we can't vote, so there's no motion to adjourn, so I'll just